Our first speaker is María Luisa de Contes. She is the General Secretary of the Board of Directors of the Renault Group in Spain. She is also a co-founder of the Mujeres Avenir Spain and French Association, whose aim is to give more visibility to women in all fields. María Luisa is going to talk about her opinion, in a project towards gender equality. So please come up to the stage. Let's give her an applause.
Buenos días.
So good morning to you all. I'd like to start by saying thanks a lot, of course, to the Cybersecurity Institute and its director, Alberto Moreno, for giving me the opportunity to open this first international forum on gender and cybersecurity, and also Luis Hidalgo Gutiérrez, who was the person in charge of contacting with me to invite me to be here today. I also have to clarify that even in the program mentions my professional position as a General Secretary of the Renault Group in Spain, I want you to know that my speech, I will be delivering it as a manager of the Women at Renault network, which is the network we have created within the Renault Group in Spain. And of course, I have prepared this speech taking my inspiration in the experience I've gotten through my work as the president of the Friendship Association Spain and France, Mujeres Avenir. So first of all, I'd say that I think it's only fair to highlight that it's been a brilliant and very relevant idea to hold this first international forum on gender and cybersecurity, because this is the beginning of a new era in the world. As the historians in science said, we've talked about the so-called Gutenberg galaxy, the Marconi galaxy, and the Lumiere galaxy. These are the three major steps or times in the history of humankind, caused by the discovery of the press, the radio, and the cinema, because these three discoveries caused many benefits for the development of knowledge in the world. And now with the discovery of internet and the cybernetics, we can also talk about the cybernetics galaxy, which is going to open a new historic era in the humankind. There are many voices that are drawing our attention on the danger of the lack of control or undue control of the new technological tools. And we've all got a very good example with the recent cybernetics attack at an international level that took place the 12th of May, that of course caused the stopping of several factories in the north of France, the Sandouville factory, for example. But I'm not going to anticipate or foresee specific topics that many other people in this forum will be talking about today and tomorrow. And of course, because I don't have enough time, because the other speakers have talked very long, so I don't have enough time. So this all can affect the rights of women, but I'm going to try and explain the extent of the rights of women in factories, in companies, in all companies. And in my humble opinion, I will show you 6 measures that can prove to be useful to get the so desired principle of gender equality that I think is too far away. We haven't reached it yet, because as Ana de Miguel, the philosopher, said in her work, The Genders of the Network, the Cyberfeminisms, and I quote, I think it will be like being a party pooper and very little postmodern and nothing cybernetics if we wonder why or who are going to cook the dinners of the so busy members of the virtual community, or the lunches, or the breakfast, or who are going to do the laundry for these busy people who are working in the cyber world. Will it be women, such as has been the situation so far? So I think, and you'll agree with me, that the path we've covered the path we've covered, and I mean the professional women like myself who have been working as executives, has been very hard and very strict, full of difficulties that many men have not encountered. To start with, women in my generations were born in a very gray and difficult time, a time when we couldn't even open a bank account without our husband's authorization. So I was always conscious and aware that the role of women in our society was not the one we deserved. But I was lucky enough to being able to go to France when I was young. So when I got to Paris in 1973, I found a totally different world, very different from the one in Spain. And there I could talk freely. In France, I was able to study law and history. I became a lawyer at the University of the Sorbonne, and I got my first job position at the Renault Group in Paris. And I've been working for Renault for over 36 years. And I've been being promoted in the same company, and now I have an executive position. I am the General Secretary of the Renault Group. I am a spokesperson in all the board of directors, etc. Some women, like some of the women who are here, I've seen you, and they've asked me, Maria Luisa, what's the secret behind being able to be promoted as a senior executive member in a company? And the answer should be easy. The only thing you need is personal effort, working hard, being talented, being trained, but that's not enough. According to my experience and other women's experience, it's not enough to be hardworking and being prepared to become a CEO. It is also necessary for the company you work for to have a democratic philosophy, to value the richness women can contribute with to women. And as many universities and reports by international institutions, such as, for example, the Peterson Institute for International Economics report, with 21,000 companies in 91 countries, the conclusion of this report said that at least 30% of women in CEO positions had at least or contributed with at least 15% more benefits to their companies than the companies who didn't have women as CEOs or senior executives. So I think that the best way or the best recommendation I can give to women leaders is to have a good technical and professional training without any limits, because without a technical training and a good will to do hard work, it is not possible for women to assume a leadership within the civil society, a leadership that they deserve as a right per se. And now I'm going to talk about the 6 measures I was talking about. The first measure is work-life balance and awareness raising. In my opinion, something important to be changed, to be able to evolve towards equal societies, that we all need to accept that it is a fact that we all repeat and channel stereotypes for gender and prejudices, especially men, but also some women. So it is important to stop and think what we do in our daily lives, because equality is a work that needs to be developed every time and everywhere in our professional life, in our companies, and also in our social and daily lives. I've been acting for many years. I've been working to promote a real equality, but I also make the effort to question myself, to wonder, to question all the roles I perform in my daily life as a team manager, as the only woman in many board of directors when I'm the only woman, as a mother, as a spouse, as a friend, because we're all different. Of course, men and women are different, and for me this difference is nice, it's beautiful. I don't think we have to remove it. What I think is that we have to disenfranchise ourselves from these stereotypes. I'm giving you an example. I heard one human resources manager from a company, I'm not going to give you the name, that said, since many women do not accept positions that imply geographical relocation, I've decided not to propose these positions to any women, because it will be like wasting my time, because they will all say no to the positions. And to my opinion, this is not right. We have to let women decide, choose, even if the generic behavior of most of them is the same. So that's what I meant when I was saying equal opportunities and removal of stereotypes. We cannot act like every woman is the same. Those at the front row and those at the back rows. That's a stereotype. So we have to reflect upon this, and we have to talk to our relatives and people around us about this fight against the stereotypes. We all have to be ambassadors of equality. I don't have time for specific examples, but I found myself in several situations in which I have to defend my position in a board of directors, and I think a woman, mother of 3 children, can accept relocation. And I know a specific case, and I know a woman who had 3 children, and she accepted a position overseas, and when she came back, she had 1 more child. So it is important for us to take part in the civil society. I think women cannot renounce to do what men do not renounce to do, with all the consequences. So every time you find an opportunity, every time I find an opportunity, I join many boards of directors and associations boards. So I am the president of the French Alliance Association in Spain. There are 22. I am also a member of the chamber, the financial chamber in Spain, and the financial club in Madrid, a counselor of the external trade in France, and a spokesperson of many other associations. If I can do it, you can do it too. Because if men can control their time, we can do it too. Why should a man have more time to take part in these association institutions than women? Because time is the same for men and women. The only difference is the social prejudices that lead us to think that we cannot ambition to get one of these positions. And I think it is important to break that. So in my opinion, for the professional development of women in the society, it can only be done through the equality, and when women do not renounce to their professional and social and family evolution. So of course, if you don't want to get crazy with this mix of work, and by accepting all the positions that you are offered, you have to do teamwork. And I think success in the fight for women's rights is a fight of women not isolated, but women working together as a team. The best way to move forward in this grateful fight is to work together with other women who are willing to commit themselves to participate in this road towards equality. So when I join a new board of directors, the first thing I do, because I'm a woman, is to fight and try to incorporate, to make other women join, because we have to express our solidarity with other women. The third measure about the creation of networks within the companies. When you are a senior executive or a manager within a company, and if you're a woman, you have to do more work than men. And I think that the creation of women networks within a company is a tactic with excellent outcomes in the fight for equality within the companies. And I know because I have first-hand experience. Now the men come with us since these networks exist. And I think it is a role that we have to assume, we women in the company, so we have a double task. I have promoted, together with other women in the Renal World Group, together with other 6,000 women, all volunteers, because we want to be part of these networks. We have created reflection groups about the gender equality in our companies, and we have created an organization where members, male members, are also invited. On Tuesdays, we talk to women from Algeria, on Wednesday from Colombia, on Saturday we talk to each other, and we know the problems of the women in the renal group in the rest of the world. So we have an interconnected network, and we talk about our activities in the Women at Renal network. The same experience has been shared by other companies. Some companies are here, you know me. Peugeot has adopted it, Saint-Gobain has adopted it, Pricewaterhouse has adopted it, BNP Paribas has adopted it, and many more. So this is important to promote equality in all fields, especially in the business field. The fourth measure, about the signature of volunteer agreements with the governments. At the same time that we promote those reflection spaces in these networks with women in companies, we also have to sign women in the companies, in the networks, have to make our companies sign the equality promotion agreements with governments at a local and at European levels. Because once those voluntary agreements are signed, the changes of government normally don't change them, don't remove them. The new incoming government won't remove it because it's already signed. In Spain, the Renal Group has signed several volunteer agreements with the current Spanish government. All the volunteer agreements the government of Spain has promoted or has proposed. For example, the volunteer agreement about the adoption of measures to increase the presence of women in senior executive positions and boards of directors, and the collaboration agreement to promote the equal participation of men and women in the boards of directors. And recently, a collaboration agreement to promote the awareness raising on gender violence and the reinsertion in the labor market of the victims. And a few days ago, with Mr. Mayo Garcés and the Director for Equality and the Institute of Women, a general protocol for the design, implementation, and assessment of a blind CV that will enable companies to hire people without any discrimination. So if you haven't adopted it yet, I propose you to sign it and adopt it if you want to become part of the new working groups with the Secretary of State for Equality. And that's why the Convention for the Hiring of Women that are victims of abuse and gender violence, it's so important because these women are unprotected and helpless. So by hiring them, we help them get emancipated and independent and make a fresh start. So all these agreements with the administration are not excessively rigid in their fulfillment, but they are useful because they create within the companies, to some extent, as it is followed by the administration, and I repeat, they create some moments or some guidelines with the CEO to talk about the follow-up and the compliance of the agreements. If you cannot measure it, you cannot control it. So in the Renault Group, we have implemented all those agreements that I've talked about. And I can assure you that if companies sign those agreements, the CEO, the presidents, the directors, the committees have to really consider, have to think about how many women occupy senior positions. So that's why those agreements are so important, and the companies, the big companies with an international repercussion, with a regional repercussion, have to sign them, because that way they will increase the awareness raising within the company and a change of mindset. And I can also say, because I can experience it, that when those agreements are signed with public administration, the company will also affect the providers of the company and also the clients. So women have to demand our companies to make it clear that their only purpose is not to make money or to have an economic benefit, of course, or a profit, which is, of course, legitimate. But they also have to commit themselves with the society they work in by creating job positions and to make our country evolve in all the fields, in the economic field, but also in the social field and in terms of equality between men and women. And the last measure is talent and legislation for the creation of quotas in the companies. I've just talked about the voluntary agreements. This is a kind of voluntary quota, but for a woman to be able to succeed within a company, it's not enough for her to work hard or to be talented or to be well trained or educated, because we know that with the same level of hard work, women get worse positions within a company. So many women have reached the conclusion that it is necessary to change the legal rules of the country. They need to be adapted to prevent inequality between men and women. So if you want to choose a headline or the main quote of my intervention, I want to say that many countries, especially Spain, are still wasting the talent of many professional women. And if we want to avoid it, many of us think it is necessary to implement a new quota legislation, a new quota law, because it's been already implemented in my second countries, France, in Italy, in Norway, with very good effects, and many other countries in our economic region. And many consultancy firms, universities, and the most prestigious business schools in the world say that even if it's socially or theoretically recognized that the female talent is good, in companies and bodies, the treatment is unequal compared to men. So as years go by, the positions and the situation of women within companies has not improved very much. Within the recession, at least in Spain, the situation has gone worse. We have fewer female executive, and they have worse retribution. So we've gone from 19% in 2008 to 11% in 2016. So it's a drop by 8 points. So we'll see the results of next year when they are presented. So between 2008 to 2016, the situation has decreased, has gone worse, even if the female executives have a better education. And before the recession, retribution gap at an international level was 11.9%, but now the retribution divide is 17.1%. In Spain, it is 20% according to the data published in April 2017. The conclusion of those studies are therefore refuting all of them who say that it's only a matter of time for women to occupy the position that, according to their training and for demographic reasons, they should occupy. So even if the strength of this data are evident, the detractors of the quota say that it is not necessary to legally enforce the feminine presence of women in positions of responsibility in the boards of directors, because they think it will come naturally, which we've seen is not true. But against that argument that equality between men and women will be obtained in a natural way, they also add another argument that quotas are unfair for men. They're very unfair for men because men will be displaced for a position they deserve for their merits and capacities. And it will be painful for women. Well, I'd like to be a quota woman. It will be painful for women because they will be subject to the suspicion that what they get is thanks to the quota. But the objective data I have shown you have been 4 decades refuting those fake theories. Many economic studies show that the quotas are necessary to get what the inequality has prevented us from getting. Otherwise, we will continue to waste the talent and capacities women have. It's been demonstrated in France, in Italy, Norway, the pioneering country in terms of quotas, in a definitive and clear way. If we want to get, well, in Norway, in order to get 40% of women in the boards of directors, it took them 10 years with volunteer agreements. And they only got 50%, the level they wanted, through the implementation of the compulsory legislation. And now, with the results they've got in Norway, no one can say that women lack talent or are unprepared to become part of the boards of directors. What about the involvement of men who've talked about the fight between men and women? I think changes need to be caused and promoted, and for that the Renault Group has created the Women Network. In this Women Network, we have organized conferences delivered by professors aimed at improving the equality between men and women through this motto: a masculine revolution, a silent revolution. A professor from the University of Córdoba, Constitutional Law, has talked about the spread of roles between men and women in our society and invited us to reflect upon the changes that men have to exert if we want to accept the new roles that need to be assumed. So it is necessary for men to become part of this fight for equality. In these conferences that we deliver in the Renault factories in Castilla and León and in Seville, the philosophers, moral philosophers and the constitutionalist experts talk about the dysfunctioning and the need to change the roles. And when I was organizing these conferences, I thought maybe they are not going to accept it. I was surprised to see that in the Valladolid, Palencia and Sevilla factories, many people showed up. So it is important for men to become part of the fight for equality. Many of them are doing that already. Many of you are here today because, as it's been shown in the academic world and in the social revolutions, we've seen it. Equality is not only a matter of women, it's a matter of men and women if we want to create a fairer world. And now I will finish by saying something about cybersecurity and gender with an optimistic message, by saying that Luckily, we're seeing that in the current world, the place and the importance of the women is changing. It's being improved year after year, while at the same time, we're seeing that even if we have created a virtual international community, a community where we are interconnected, the Reno women, the 6,000 Reno women are interconnected every day, even if the internet enables us to talk about our experiences and lifestyles. There are new threats we have to face. As the Institute for Women, the IMIO, says, there is a very useful handbook about the confidence and security of women in the network. And they say that the new technologies can offer to the population as a whole and to women in particular many benefits and opportunities, but also new threats, because as in many other fields, women are more vulnerable to some of these threats. The digital gender divide can make it more difficult for them to get access to training or employment, or access in general, but other major risks of suffering from gender violence, cyber bullying, sexting, harassment, bullying, the techno addictions, etc. This new international virtual community informs us every day that there is now a new violent religious fanaticism. We all know about it. That gives, thanks to the availability of weapons, and now women can become an inferior person as compared to their husbands. But those retrograde and conservative ideas cannot succeed. We will not let them succeed, because women in the world are perfectly aware of their new role as a spouse, as a mother, as a daughter. They are aware of the role also in terms of the research world, in the science world, in the companies, in the businesses, and for the achievement of new achievements in the society. So this fight for equality between men and women is not only necessary in the business world, because it is a source of wealth, but in all fields in the society, in the international institutions, especially in the new world that has emerged as a consequence of the international virtual community, because women are aware that we can be the most important weapon and the most decisive weapon to bring about peace in the world, because in all the wars that are being existing now, in spite of that interconnected society and community, women are the first and foremost victims, and that's why the empowerment of the women is necessary if we want to get a safer cybernetical world, finally a richer world, a world without wars, a peaceful world. Thank you very much for your attention.